1977. A warlord hidden in the jungles of Southeast Asia delivers an ultimatum to the United States. Pay $100 million or he will poison America. This isn't a bluff. His name is Kun Sa, and at his height, he controls more heroin than any individual in human history. Nearly 40% of the heroin on U.S. streets originates from his jungle laboratories. 1 out of every 4 American overdoses traces back to his supply chain. Emergency rooms from Manhattan to Los Angeles are drowning in the fallout of his empire. And then comes the detail that makes it unforgivable. The CIA helped build him. Their Cold War proxies armed him. Their camps trained him. Their strategy turned a borderland teenager into a master of violence and logistics. Now the weapon they forged is pointing straight back at them. Washington responds with fury, a federal indictment, a $2 million bounty, and the largest multinational drug hunt ever attempted. For 20 years, governments chase him across borders, jungles, and shadow networks. They fail. Kun Sa dies in 2007, peacefully in a guarded villa, rich, surrounded by family. He never spends a single day in an American prison. So how does a jungle warlord outmaneuver a superpower? And what made him truly untouchable? The Bandit Prince Golden Triangle, 1950. Where Burma, Laos, and Thailand collide in a maze of mountains and mist, law doesn't exist. Only force does. Power here belongs to the remnants of the Kuomintang. Over 12,000 defeated nationalist Chinese soldiers pushed south after Mao's communist victory in 1949. Stateless, isolated, and quietly bankrolled by the CIA. Washington sees opportunity. These men can bleed communist China from the edges. So the CIA supplies them guns, gold, instructors. Training camps rise in the jungle. What no one notices is a quiet teenage observer on the perimeter of every drill. Half Shan, half Chinese. His name is Chong Chi-Fu. He watches everything. How to disassemble a rifle blindfolded. How to stage ambushes in dense canopy. How to read terrain like a chessboard. How violence becomes leverage, and leverage becomes power. Without realizing it, American intelligence is tutoring its future nightmare. By his early 20s, Chong commands a militia of his own. Small, ruthless, and starving. He begins with protection rackets, squeezing opium farmers trapped in villages with no police and no government presence. But Chang isn't thinking small. Where others see crops, he sees infrastructure. He doesn't want opium, he wants control. Fields, refineries, smuggling corridors, foreign buyers, every link, one system. In 1963, opportunity arrives. The Burmese military is losing ground to communist insurgents near the Chinese border. Chang offers his fighters. In return, the government gives him something more valuable than money: community. He can move opium freely under official protection. A future drug emperor has just been granted legal cover. Within 2 years, his militia is better armed than the Burmese army itself. Truckloads of black market weapons pour in: machine guns, mortars, automatic rifles. His men train with discipline modeled after the CIA-backed forces he once studied from the shadows. Fear follows his name through the hills, but regional dominance isn't enough. In the spring of 1967, Chong makes his play for the entire Golden Triangle. Picture it: 500 armed men, 300 mules, a caravan stretching nearly half a mile hauling raw opium worth a fortune beyond imagination. The destination cuts straight through territory controlled by the Kuomintang, the same power that trained him, the same cartel that has ruled the trade for 15 years. This isn't competition, it's a declaration of war. For days, the convoy creeps through jungle passes, guards scanning the tree line. Then, near the Laotian border, the forest erupts. Gunfire from 3 sides. The Kuomintang strike first, furious at the betrayal. Then Lao army units surge in, sensing the prize. It becomes a three-way massacre over 16 tons of opium. Mules collapse. Men die screaming in the mud. Then the sky joins the fight. Laotian Air Force jets roar overhead. Bombs tear the jungle apart, turning the mountains into a furnace of fire and shrapnel. When the smoke clears, Chang Chi-fu has lost everything. The shipment is gone. His fighters are dead or scattered. His aura of invincibility is shattered in a single afternoon. But this isn't the end of the story. It's the moment that forges something far more dangerous. The 33-year-old warlord barely escapes with his life. Bloodied, hunted, he disappears into the jungle with only a handful of survivors. Behind him, the mountains burn, and his enemies celebrate. The Kuomintang believe the problem is solved. The Burmese government decides Chang Chi-fu has outlived his usefulness. 2 years later, in October 1969, Chang steps off a plane at Heiho Airport expecting a routine trip. Instead, he walks straight into a snare. Security forces swarm him before he can react. No warning. No escape. He's charged with treason, accused of dealing with rival rebel groups. At 35 years old, he's shackled, dragged away, and thrown into a Mandalay prison cell. To the outside world, it's over. The Jungle Prince is finished. His empire is dead. He will rot in darkness for the rest of his life. That's what everyone believes. What they don't realize is that Chang Chi-fu has just been given something far more dangerous than weapons or money. Time. 5 years to think. 5 years to sharpen his mind. 5 years to become something else entirely. What happens to a man who loses everything, power, territory, identity, and is left alone with only strategy and rage? And who, on the outside, is already planning a kidnapping that will change history? The Resurrection Mandalay Prison. 5 years of concrete walls and silence. Most men break under that kind of isolation. Chang evolves. He devours every book he can find, obsessively returning to Sun Tzu's The Art of War.
Gentlemen,
he copies one principle again and again until it becomes law.
Our advantage
In politics, there are no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. Only advantage. Loyalty is an illusion. Sentiment is weakness. Every relationship is a transaction waiting to be exploited. Chang enters prison as a warlord who made emotional decisions. He will leave as something far more dangerous, a pure strategist who sees people not as allies or enemies, but as pieces on a board, meant to be moved or sacrificed. Outside the prison walls, his most loyal followers refuse to surrender. They wait, they plan, they watch. In 1973, they execute one of the boldest criminal operations in Burmese history. 2 Soviet doctors working at a rural hospital are kidnapped. The ransom isn't money. It's Chang Chi-fu's freedom. The Burmese government is trapped. Release a convicted traitor and suffer humiliation, or allow Soviet citizens to die and risk Moscow's wrath at the height of the Cold War. They can't afford a diplomatic disaster with the USSR. In 1974, after 5 years behind bars, Chang Chi-fu walks out of prison. Within days, he vanishes across the Thai border. Officials assume he'll disappear into obscurity, a broken man grateful to be alive. They don't understand what happens when you cage a wolf for 5 years, sharpen his mind with military philosophy, and then set him loose with nothing left to lose. Reinvention. Within 2 years, he rebuilds everything, and more. He takes a new name, Kun Sa, Prince Prosperous. But the name is only the surface of the transformation. Kun Sa doesn't present himself as a criminal anymore. He rebrands as a revolutionary, a freedom fighter for Shan independence, resisting Burmese oppression. It's propaganda genius. The Shan people, neglected, marginalized, forgotten by the government in Rangoon, embrace him as their protector. They don't see heroin refineries hidden beneath jungle canopies. They see schools being built, clinics opening, roads carved through forgotten villages. Kun Sa has discovered a universal truth of power. Wrap crime in a flag, and people will die for you. They will shelter you. They will protect you. They will hide you from the world. By 1976, he commands a rebuilt force, the Shan United Army. By 1977, he operates from a fortified base at Ban Hin Taek in northern Thailand, complete with barracks, artillery, and anti-aircraft missiles. Thai generals look the other way. He's useful as a buffer against communist insurgents. The American-trained bandit has become an American-tolerated warlord, but regional power isn't enough. Kun Sa wants recognition. He wants leverage. He wants the world to acknowledge who truly controls the heroin trade. So, in 1977, he makes his move. The offer through intermediaries, Kun Sa sends a message to Congressman Lester Wolf, chairman of the House Select Committee on Narcotics. The proposal sounds almost reasonable. Pay $100 million and he will sell the United States his entire opium stockpile. Invest in development for the Shan people, and he will retire from the drug trade forever. But beneath the polite language is the truth. I control the largest heroin supply on Earth. I can remove it from the market, or drown your cities in it. It's extortion disguised as negotiation. Blackmail dressed up as diplomacy. A criminal holding a superpower hostage. Inside Washington, the debate turns ugly. When Kun Sa receives the rejection deep in his jungle headquarters, he smiles. He was counting on it. The offer was never an offer. It was a warning. And now he has permission to act. If America won't pay, America will bleed. What follows will be remembered as an industrial revolution of death. The flood. The 1980s. Kun Sa doesn't just expand his operation. He reinvents the global heroin trade. He relocates deep into Shan State, beyond Thai reach, beyond law enforcement pressure. There he builds something unprecedented. A narco-state, a functioning government, a controlled economy, an industrial policy designed for mass death. By 1985, he unites Shan warlords under a single banner and creates the Mong Thai Army. And this is only the beginning. By 1985, Kun Sa completes what no drug lord before him ever achieved. He unites rival Shan warlords under a single banner and forms the Mong Thai Army. Not a gang, not a cartel, an army. 18,000 full-time soldiers, 5,000 trained reserves, 8,000 village militias spread across his territory, more than 30,000 fighters, equipped with mortars, rockets, heavy machine guns, and shoulder-fired surface-to-air missiles capable of bringing down helicopters and low-flying aircraft. For perspective, that's a larger force than the standing militaries of many United Nations member states.
The pages hold the secret.
Kun Sa builds what looks like a nation from the air: schools, hospitals, tax offices, even a ceremonial parliament, the Shan Revolutionary Council, designed to project legitimacy. Inside his borders, Kun Sa isn't a trafficker. He's a head of state. But his true weapon isn't his soldiers, it's his chemists. Across his territory, dozens of laboratories operate non-stop, converting raw opium into No. 4 heroin, refined to 90% purity. Before Kun Sa, street heroin in American cities typically arrived diluted to 3 to 5%. His product hits the market up to 20 times stronger, and now it's being produced at factory scale. Thousands of kilograms leave jungle refineries every single month. Western drug agencies call it an industrial revolution of death. They aren't exaggerating. The body count tells the real story. In the mid-1970s, Southeast Asian heroin barely registered in the US market, perhaps 5% of supply. Under Kun Sa, Golden Triangle opium production detonates past 2,500 tons per year, more than half of the world's total output.
If they cross that border, everything we've worked for is lost. I repeat, it is unacceptable.
By 1989, Golden Triangle heroin accounts for 80% of the supply on New York City streets. Kun Sai personally controls nearly half of that flood. DEA estimates conclude that 40% of all heroin entering the United States originates from his operation. Think about what that means. 4 out of every 10 heroin overdoses in America trace back to one man's jungle laboratories. He's killing more Americans each year than some wars, and building a fortune doing it. Inside Sean's state, Kun Sa carefully maintains his double identity. When foreign journalists brave the mountains to interview him, he offers calm, polished justifications. Westerners will use drugs no matter what, he says. I'm simply a businessman meeting demand. Then comes the moral shield. Every dollar, he insists, funds the Shan struggle for self-determination. It's a perfect deflection. Many Shan villagers believe him completely. They don't see refineries hidden beneath the canopy. They see roads where the government built none. Security where the state offered only neglect. Compared to distant generals in Rangoon, who deliver airstrikes instead of aid, the opium warlord feels almost benevolent. The Burmese military, however, knows exactly who he is. Throughout the 1980s, clashes erupt between government forces and Kun Sa's army, but never seriously, never decisively. Why? Because many senior Burmese officers are quietly on his payroll. The corruption runs so deep that his real shield isn't missiles or manpower, it's bribes. But Kun Sa is different from every narco boss before or since. He doesn't hide, he performs. In 1988, as President Ronald Reagan declares a global war on drugs, Kun Sa declares war right back, on camera. He invites international journalists directly into his headquarters. Under studio lights in the jungle, the 54-year-old warlord looks into the lens and repeats his infamous proposal: $100 million to buy out his entire opium stockpile. Then he smiles and taunts the DEA. Why not use a bandit to catch a bandit? He isn't evading the world's most powerful nation. He's daring it to stop him. Washington responds with a $2 million bounty on his head. That same year, Thai police and DEA agents intercept one of his shipments, 2,400 kilograms of near-pure heroin, en route to New York City. Street value, hundreds of millions of dollars. Enough doses to feed hundreds of thousands of addicts. One of the largest drug seizures in history. Kun Sa barely reacts. When you control half the global supply, losing 2.4 tons is a rounding error. In the years that follow, Kun Sa performs his final transformation. This time, he doesn't pick up a weapon. He disappears into legitimacy. His drug fortune flows quietly into Yangon real estate, timed perfectly with the city's explosive urban expansion. Concrete replaces jungle. Office towers replace bunkers. He acquires a nationwide bus transportation network, routes stretching across Burma like veins. He invests in ruby mines in the country's gem-rich regions, assets that sparkle cleanly on paper and hide decades of blood underneath. When journalists occasionally secure interviews, the performance is flawless. He calls himself a simple real estate agent. He speaks softly about development. He reminisces about his past as a revolutionary, as if it were a youthful mistake rather than a global catastrophe. The transformation is complete. Warlord, prisoner, freedom fighter, drug emperor, retired businessman. Each identity adopted when useful. Each discarded the moment it became inconvenient. For 11 years, the DEA keeps his indictment alive. They pressure regional governments. They demand asset freezes. They file diplomatic protests year after year. Nothing changes. Kun Sa remains in Yangon, untouchable, sheltered by a government with no incentive to extradite him, and every incentive to keep him quiet, comfortable, and alive. On October 26, 2007, he dies peacefully of natural causes. 73 years old, He never appears in an American courtroom, never sees the inside of a US prison, never answers for the damage. The Burmese state grants him a formal burial, complete with honors. But Kun Sa was never operating alone. The Golden Triangle trade was woven into the fabric of the Cold War, entangled with intelligence agencies, covert logistics, and shadow wars that remain only partially declassified. CIA aircraft moving through the region. Smuggling corridors protected for strategic reasons. Drug profits quietly redirected to fund proxy conflicts across Southeast Asia. This wasn't just crime. It was geopolitics conducted in darkness.
Finally got 'em all.
And if you want to understand how American intelligence became intertwined with the global narcotics network, and why figures like Kun Sa were able to operate for decades inside that shadow, watch our deep dive on the CIA and global drug trafficking. Because once you see the full picture, everything that happened in those jungles looks very different. Thank you guys, see you next video.